Welcome to episode 36 of Speak Free with MattyG. I am joined here today by Nick Betar from the Betar Project, a fellow podcaster and mental health advocate. And this is not actually the first time we filmed this podcast. We did film probably about a month ago or so, but I didn't realize until I started editing that the audio had no fucking sound. So we're back. But yeah, welcome, man.
Thank you for having me. It's funny how these kind of things happen. I messaged you a week ago talking about this, and I was like, "Fuck, I wish we recorded it like recently."
Yeah.
And then this happens, and then you call me last night. I'm on date night. I'm like, "What does this guy want?" And you told me the audio stuff. So I'm like, "Cool, let's record again." I'm pumped, and the whole day I'm like, I'm actually excited because I love connecting. I love being on the other side of the microphone. Because I'm always the host.
So was I. And it's funny because so many times I'll do a podcast and probably not recently, not since I moved here. I've been pretty fucking happy with each one. But I do think back on episodes sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could sort of do it again, because it's like there's a moment there I would have asked that, or I would have, I wish I would have been a bit more open or whatever it may be. And I'm like, to have that opportunity now is pretty cool because, yeah, we wouldn't have, I would have just stuck with it if the audio was there. So, but let's get into, we're going to obviously talk about you podcasting and sort of your journey through that with the Betar Project and what you want to achieve out of that. We'll talk about mental health and why that, is such a important topic to talk about, not just for you, but more generally speaking for the world as well, to break down that stigma. And also I just want to be a bit real with people who've listened, especially over the course of this year. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, tell me about the Betar Project. How did it come about? How did you start it? And talk me through that process.
So the podcast started in the back end of 2019, early 2020, when the whole COVID thing started to happen. To give you a bit of context on myself, I was that shy, quite introverted kid. So like thinking back to school, if you walked in the room, those kids are kind of kept to themselves. But if you got to know that person, they're like a totally different. So for me, I was like, I had two different personalities. I hated going out of my comfort zone. I lacked confidence, self-worth. And I really just kept to myself. But there was a point in my life where I couldn't continue living like this because I knew within me that I wanted to have an impact in this world. I just didn't know how. And then I always had that little voice in my head saying, Nick, you can't do that. Like you can't even go speak to people. So how are you meant to go have an impact? And it wasn't until Gary Vaynerchuk, now you know who he is, yes, American entrepreneur, popped up on Instagram. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? But he's spitting some cool shit. And I started following him for a while, and then I seen that he was coming to Sydney. I bought tickets straight away, just the impulse buy. I'm like, I'm going to this event. I don't know what I'm going to get out of it, but I'm going. And at the time I was at university and I told my parents, you know what, I'm skipping uni for this day. I'm going to this event. And they're like, Nick, what the fuck are you doing? They're just going to try and scam you and sell you all these courses and all this bull crap. I was like, you know what, it is what it is. I'm going there because there's just something within me that needs to go. And I remember sitting in the crowd and listening to all the amazing speakers. The last one was Gary. So he comes out. The way that guy can captivate a crowd and inspire change and have an impact that he has, I'm like, imagine if I could do this on that scale. And as I mentioned before, I had that little voice saying, you can't do that. But I sat with myself for a second. I had that little internal battle with myself. And I was like, Nick, if you continue living in your comfort zone, living the way that you're living, you'll never have an impact in this world. You need to make a promise to yourself today to step out of your comfort zone. Don't care what other people think about you. Don't care about the judgment, the fear of failure, anything like that. Just be you and do whatever you feel is necessary to have that impact. And the next week I actually dropped out of uni. I was like, I hate this. I'm dropping out. Started working in my family business, bought my first camera. And it all started with vlogging. So vlogging was massive at the time. So I was like, I'm going to start vlogging. Fuck, that was daunting, bro. Like I couldn't even have a conversation with people, let alone talk in front of a camera. But I did it. And then a month or so later, Gary Vee pops up. Everyone needs to have a podcast. I didn't know what a podcast was. Didn't listen to them, had no clue what they were, but I did my research. The next week I went to JB Hi-Fi, bought a crappy microphone, plugged it into my old ass laptop and just started recording. That first episode was a 3-minute intro episode. I haven't listened to it in ages. So if you're interested, go listen to it. It's terrible.
Listen to it.
It's terrible. That 3-minute episode took me about an hour to record because I felt like it had to be perfect. And I kept stuffing up and mumbling and couldn't process what I actually wanted to speak about. But I did it. And I pressed that release button to put it out there to the world. Not really the world, only my mum who listens. And it just started from there. And the more episodes I put out, the more confidence I got. I think a big pivotal moment early was someone I looked up to was Isaac John, so the owner of YKTR, ex-professional rugby league player. At the time, he's like, I'm going to jump on a bunch of podcasts. And I was so scared. I was like, do I send this email? Do I not? But I just sent the email. And he goes, yeah, bro, I'll jump on your podcast. I'm like, oh, shit. What do I do now? And here I am doing all my research. I've got 2 pages of notes. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I jump on and I'm sitting there like so nervous, like mumbling my words. And he goes, bro, just take a breath, just relax. And I'm like, oh, shit, he can notice it too. Yeah. I was so anxious. But after that podcast, it was a terrible podcast. But after it, the amount of confidence I gained off the back of it, because I'm like, Nick, if you can sit there and have a conversation of someone that you look up to, like imagine who else you can speak to. Man, my confidence shot through the roof and I was just speaking to anyone and everyone. And that year, I think I did 50 odd podcasts. I was recording like 2 or 3 a week, going crazy at it. But then I burnt out because there was like that lack of direction or lack of purpose with it. Because when I started, I'm like, I'm just going to do a podcast. But I didn't know what it was going to be about. I was just speaking. I wanted to speak to people. When I felt so drained and it started feeling like a job or a chore to do, I ended up taking a couple of weeks off. And I'm lucky enough it aligned with me going and playing a sporting tournament up the coast somewhere. So holiday, time away from everything. And it allowed me to really reflect on it all. And I was like, what is the common denominator between all the people that I've spoken to? They've all gone through their fair share of adversity. They've all struggled with mental health at some point or rather in their life. But they never felt comfortable opening up and speaking about it at that time. And I was like, why is that? Like, why is there a stigma surrounding mental health when the reality is we all have mental health, whether it's good or bad?
Yeah.
Why can't we speak about it? And I decided, you know what, I'm going to take the podcast in that direction. And from there, it's just been ever growing and ever evolving. And this is my 4th year doing it and just hit 250 episodes the other day. So
yeah, wow. Congratulations.
It's been a massive achievement. Like if you look at the stats, I think it's 80% of podcasts don't make it past 3 to 5. And then out of that, 80% don't get past 20 or 50 or whatever it is. So I'm like in the top 1 to 5%.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a fucking lot of episodes, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're up to, 36. And I feel like I've fucking ran a marathon to get to 36.
Well, that's a massive achievement in itself, man.
Yeah. I mean, I just fucking love it, and I think you're the same. Like, I don't think there's, how lucky are we to be in this time, be born in this time? There's a lot of shit parts of being born in, the era of fucking social media and that, and there's a lot of negatives that come with it. But the fact that like people are willing to sit there and watch or listen to a fucking, an hour or 2 hours or 3 hour podcast, fucking someone, Joe Rogan's gone for like 4 hours and people watch it the whole way through. And the fact that that's, now like that's entertainment, it's always been entertaining, like I think when people think back on the best moments of their lives, it's not like the fucking shows they watched or the, or the fucking concerts, I mean, concerts are pretty cool,
it's
but
experiences
like things,
usually,
it's usually like that connection with someone else. And I think that's what podcasting really is. It's like, it's giving that, human connection on a filmed platform.
Definitely. And the way I describe it is it's authentic connection.
Yeah.
Especially the style that I do and the conversations that I have. Speaking about mental health is a very vulnerable subject for a lot of people. And a lot of the times it may be their first time opening up about their journey and their story. It's scary and it's a massive risk to put all your issues on the table and share that to not only myself, but to the listeners. It's a massive, massive risk. But within taking that risk, that's where authentic connection is created. Because if you think back to the last time you opened up to someone and then they opened up back because they felt comfortable, how much more connected did you feel that person?
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. It's that creating that authentic connection, which then creates that ripple effect for the listener to be like, cool, if these two guys can come on a podcast, be vulnerable, open up, why can't I? And then they start opening up and it just creates that ripple where it's not so much the negative side of things. It's creating that positive conversation around mental health. And it's not to, coming back to the negative side, it's not pushing that to the side. It's having the conversation, but putting the positive spin on it, because without the negative, you wouldn't have the positive. It's that you need both of them.
Yeah.
And what I've come to learn, especially as men, our dark side, our traumas, our setbacks, for me personally, I'm not sure for yourself, but I know a lot of men, that's what motivates us to fucking push on and grow and achieve the things that we want to achieve.
Yeah, 100%.
So we need that dark side. That's like an energy source. And look at Michael Jordan, for example. He taps into his dark side every time he stepped on the court. We need to do that too.
I agree, 100%. And for me, especially this year, it's been a real like self-reflective sort of year for me. Sort of reflecting on behaviors that I didn't really see a problem with before. And I'm not talking just about like drug use and whatever it may be, but
what
like
behaviors?
I would say like how I would react to different situations with like friends and stuff. And, I've done a lot of, I guess it comes hand in hand with sort of drug use in the way of where I was last year with doing, to be real, I was probably doing drugs every fucking weekend. And throughout the week, it ended up getting to that point, So I think a lot of these things that I've now come to realize about myself, whether it be maybe like a fear of abandonment or little things that I didn't notice before in myself, was probably due to, I guess, numbing the reality of it with the drug use, with the partying, with the, I'm a fucking rock star attitude, which is not healthy. And, I'm going to be real. I went up to Brisbane for Magic Round. I was 114 days sober going up. Decided probably 2 days before that I'm probably going to drink up there. I hadn't had a holiday in a while.
How'd you feel about that going into like making that decision?
It was a hard decision to make.
And why did you make that decision?
I think there was a few factors into it. Just previous to me going up, I had a really, really fucking hard weekend. And I know it probably, when I relay what the weekend was, it probably doesn't sound like a hard weekend, but for a sober person,
it's your hard.
Yeah, and it was I went to there was a race day at the Hawkesbury races. Mm-hmm. Hadn't been to the races since I went sober, so that was like a big fucking test for me. Went there, I remained sober. Then I went and worked, like my mate runs an event business. He's a DJ in that. But there was a big event on at the Royal, which is a pub in Richmond after the races. So I worked the door there. And it's funny because I've done that exact same day before, but not sober.
Yeah.
So I remember there was a time where I went to the races and then there was like a races after party event.
So it would have looked totally different.
Yeah. So it's like, it was like deja vu, but a completely different perspective on it. And I think it made me feel very disconnected from everyone around me.
Yeah. Okay.
Because everyone was fucked up, right?
So you felt like you had to be.
Not that I had to be. I didn't do it there.
Yeah.
I didn't get on it.
But in your head, you're like, fuck, maybe I should.
Yeah, that definitely crossed my mind multiple times throughout the day. Fucking heaps. And I was like, fuck it. So I think there was a build up of that feeling of is it even worth it? Like, what am I doing? What's the point of being sober? You know, because I got in that headspace. And then Anzac Day was like a couple of days after. That was really fucking hard as well, man. Like, to not have a beer on Anzac Day, fuck, man. Like, I've been probably some of the messiest I've ever been on Anzac Days, you know? And, but I stayed sober. And then Magic Round was, I think, the following weekend. So there was a weekend after Anzac Day, and then it was the following weekend after that. I'm pretty sure. Can't really remember. But I made the decision before I went. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to get up there. I really had to talk to myself. I was like, I think I'm going to go up there, and I think the pressure's going to be too much, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to fucking hate myself. And I was like, so how about we make the decision now that you drink up there, you party, you have fun, but when you come back, you're straight back into it. And I had every intention of doing that. Every intention. Went up there, had a great time, got really, really fucked up. Like, really fucked up. I was throwing up in a park on the Monday morning in Brisbane, in the middle of Brisbane, and just fucking hating myself, you know, because I was like, oh, God, this is why I don't do this anymore, you know. And then I came back and I stayed sober that following weekend, and I was like, you know what, like, yeah, I'm getting straight back into it, whatever. And now there's been like, I wouldn't say, I'm not going to like sit here and be like, oh, fucking, you know, gone back to my old ways, because I haven't. I really don't think I have. But there has been a few slip ups since Magic Round. So I wanted to say it because I wanted to be real with people, you know, like I've talked a lot about sobriety on here.
Coming back to you making the decision to drink, do you feel like you made an excuse in your head of, fuck, I'm going to go and drink anyway, so I may as well just make the decision now?
I think
to make
so.
yourself feel better about doing it?
100%. If I'm being real, like, I think I knew that I was teetering on the edge of, fuck, like, I'm going to give in soon, you know? That was in my head. Did I want to? No, but it was in my head. So I think in order to feel some sense of control over the situation that was happening, where I felt like I was losing control quite significantly, I made the decision.
In your head, you felt like you were in control, but really
weren't. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to feel like I was in control. So that's why I made that decision in quotation marks.
And coming back to sobriety, what is your why for actually being sober?
I took it way too far.
Yeah.
Got carried away, and it became non-enjoyable. You know, I'm in no way anti-drugs, anti-partying. I've made that pretty clear. I am anti-using it as a mechanism for coping.
Mask your pain, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Which I think a lot of people do. Do they take it too far when they're doing it? Probably not. You know, it might be an occasional thing they use to fucking have a good time when they're going through some dark shit or whatever it may be. For me, that became my dark shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that became my problem. It wasn't so much about masking a problem. Well, it was, but it became a problem in itself as well, you know?
There's so much we could dig into here.
I know. But currently I would say I'm doing okay. I've really recognized it now, after the last time that I see where I fucked up was drinking was really never my problem. Whereas that's what I did in Brisbane. So I was like, oh, okay, like I can come back and I'll be all right.
Because you mentioned your why of you took it too far. That to me is not a deep enough why, which is why you probably rebounded quite easily in your head. So like for you, is there a deeper why? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different factors. I was not happy anymore with myself. I was actually losing touch of who I was. There was a bit of an identity crisis going on. But it's funny because in saying that, then I had an identity crisis when I went sober. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then I was losing, and I had a good chat with a friend of mine, Ricky, shout out. And he's like, you got to kill that motherfucker. You got to kill him. Like that's the old MattyG, you know? You have to kill him and create a new identity. And like, because we're talking about like people I've fallen out with or whatever it may be. And he's like, they know a different identity than what the one you're trying to create now. But for me, I don't know, it's so hard. And like, we need like 5 hours to get into the depths of this. You know what I mean? So I don't want to talk about me the whole fucking podcast.
Opposite. I'm just so used to it, so I'm sorry.
I did want to be, I'm glad I'm being real. Like, obviously, I'll talk more about this as, you know, episodes come out and whatnot. And I want to be very open about it. But, sorry, let's just go back. What were we talking about? What were we actually saying? Talking about
your why and your purpose for actually going sober.
So, and I found that I was, I think through the journey of being sober, I actually lost a lot of things that I was used to be holding on to, right, as parts of myself. And it was harder as time went on. It was easy. It was actually easy at first, I must say. It was like I felt fucking good. As time went on, it got a lot fucking harder.
Because at the beginning you set that new goal. So yes, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, and it's like a breakup.
The honeymoon stage at the beginning, and then the reality sets in. It's like, fuck, I actually got to fight these demons.
Yes, and you know, Steve-O said a really good quote on a podcast. He was like, when you go sober, like cool, like. But the drugs weren't actually the problem. It's the reason that you were doing the drugs. That's what you got to, and when there's no drugs to mask that anymore, you've actually got to look into yourself, and that's where the real fucking work happens. That's where the real hard work happens, you know?
Have you dealt with those? Because you mentioned fear of abandonment before. Is that an issue for you?
Yeah, that's like come to light just like recently as like a realization, you know, for me with self-reflection. Just like little things I do or how I react to certain situations. I don't want to get too heavy into that only because I'm still doing more research.
You're doing the work on it yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like I need to talk about that when I'm at like a better understanding.
But it's good to start the conversation now.
Yeah, and I'm very open. Like I'm really heavily considering going and seeing like getting on a mental health plan and making use of that out there because
I think you get 10 free sessions.
Yeah, which is great. That's fucking awesome. Like I don't know any other country that does that. Maybe some communism country or something, but but I think that's pretty cool. Like I think people should use that. I think it's very important. And actually I saw quite a few text messages come out just recently from like GPs and stuff. Like I've got my obviously phone number connected to 2 different GP places, like one at Granville, one in the Hawkesbury, and they both sent out a text saying like it's Men's Mental Health Month. If you'd like to make use of the you know mental health plan, come and see our GP today. Blah blah whatever it was. I was like, that's a really good idea because sometimes that's all it takes. One text message like that, you know, and someone's fucking on the edge, and that might be that trigger to go and seek help. You know, so I thought that was cool to see.
What's your thoughts on Mental Health Month?
You know what? I've never been one for a fucking day or a month, like with anything, right? Yeah. Like Breast Cancer Awareness Day and like all this shit. And I'm like,
before we know it, everyone's going to have their own day.
Like seriously, like except white guys.
Yeah, I had mixed opinions when it comes to Mental Health Day. Are you okay? And I think we spoke about this in the last episode where,
which no one will ever see.
Yeah, it kind of, it did piss me off that these months or these days would roll around and people would come out of the woodworks and do their social media posts to say, hey, I played my part, and then you don't hear from them again. That really pissed me off. But I made a post the other day asking people what's their opinion on it, and I shared mine. And I had this really great conversation with, his name's Sean from the Betar Project down in Melbourne, big mental health brand. And he goes, it's not about the people that come out of the woodworks. It's about the people that are struggling. But by having Are You Okay Day, Mental Health Month, the conversation of mental health is now at the forefront of everyone's mind. So now someone who doesn't feel comfortable sees that people are actually speaking about it, they're going to feel more comfortable coming out and opening up about it and having that positive conversation around it, not feeling like, fuck, they're going to judge me or there's such a big stigma around it. So it's about those people feeling comfortable that, hey, I can go out there and have that conversation because it's at the forefront of everyone's mind now. So that really shifted my perspective to like, hey, as I said, it's not about the people that come out of the woodworks, it's the people that now can feel comfortable opening up and sharing what they're going through when the other days or months of the year they may not.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we should only focus on mental health on these periods. Like, no, it should be fucking 365 days a year. Every day we should be focusing on it. And I speak about building your mental fitness. We should be building our mental fitness each and every day. So it's awesome to have these conversations, but we also have to extend them and do it year round.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think there's any harm that can come from it. You know what I mean? My only issue is that some people may feel that they've done their duty. I reached out on that day.
Yeah.
Done my duty, you know, but they're not really like, you know, I don't want to get caught up in saying it's everyone's responsibility because I don't really believe that.
I think it's everyone's responsibility for themselves.
Yes, I would agree with that, right? So, yeah, look after yourself first and foremost is the most important thing. If you don't do that, you can't really lend help to others as well. You know, a lot of people give, and they struggle so much because they're always the ones to give and
Pouring
not
from an
receive.
empty cup.
Yeah.
You got to tune in with yourself and make sure you're in check before you can actually check in with others and make sure they're okay.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time what happens is with these days, right, these Are You Okay days and that, I think for the people who do always give and always check in and that, I think when these days happen and they see these friends who or people in their life who they've helped along the way who haven't been there for them and then they see them post or do whatever.
It's like you can post on social media, but you can't reach out to me.
Yeah, it just seems a bit fake, right?
Yeah.
Like it seems, just not very genuine, not very authentic.
I think we still have a long way to go, though.
Yeah.
And looking at it from the perspective of the person that comes out of the woodworks, as I mentioned, they may not feel comfortable actually having the conversation, but it is easy to make a post. And who knows, that post may reach someone and be like, oh, okay, maybe I should reach out. And I posed this question, and you mentioned there's no harm in having too much conversation about mental health and awareness. I posed the question, can it actually be harmful where men are walking down the street and they think something's wrong with them because everyone's asking, are you okay? And every day they're talking about men's mental health and stuff, where it gets to the point where, fuck, am I okay? Are the emotions I'm feeling, are they normal, or what's going on? And I pose that question. And I think it comes down to the dialogue that we're having these conversations in a positive light. And it's coming back to the conversation of before about not always being negative, but also not pushing it to the side. Understanding that there's negatives in anything and we need to discuss it. We need to bring it to the table, but putting that positive spin on it of, hey, like, yeah, you're going through something, you've gone through something, but by reaching out, by opening up, like everything's going to be okay. And the big thing I say is don't let a short-term emotion make you decide a long-term result in regards to taking your own life. Like, we lose 8 men a day, which I 100% believe it's preventable. Just by, yes, awareness, but backing that up with action when it comes to education and actually having these conversations. So it's an interesting playground to play in. That's for sure.
I do want to talk to you about, obviously, your podcast. 250 episodes. It's fucking awesome.
It's been a journey, bro.
It's fucking awesome. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of dedication. And hats off to you for that, because it's not easy. to stay committed to it. It's not fucking easy. And like you said, a lot of people give up. A lot of people stop. What's one of the best experiences you've had podcasting?
Oh, shit. Best experience.
It's a bit of a loaded question. Like, what do you think back on? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about your happiest memory podcasting?
There's a couple, and I think building my studio was a massive moment. Like for me, I built a lot of that myself. Like after work, I'd be sanding the walls and painting it and putting it all together. That took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money. And now I sit in my studio and I'm like, I'm so fucking grateful. So grateful. But at the same time, and a big saying of mine is like, I'm proud, but I'm never satisfied. Like I was in my studio, I'm like, yeah, I love it. But hey, that camera could be better. That light could be better. There's always something to improve, and I'm always looking to grow. But I'm always also reflecting on how far I've come. From that shy introverted kid to now having my own studio, people traveling from Queensland and Melbourne to jump on the podcast. Like they're my best moments, is being able to sit in a studio knowing that someone's made the trip out here to sit down with you and have the conversation. Like last week I had someone sit on a train from 4 hours from Newcastle to jump on the podcast.
Yeah, wow.
Then I had someone else from Melbourne who came up here, and it just so happened to line, and he's like, fuck, jump on the podcast too. And a part of me had like a bit of imposter syndrome. Like, fuck, these guys are traveling this way. Is it really worth it for them? I'm like, fuck yeah, it is, Nick. Like you haven't put in all this work to build the foundations, to build the podcast, the studio, everything like that, to not believe in yourself and not know that you're one of the top podcasts. And I say to people that come on my podcast, I'm like, yeah, you've been on a podcast before, but you haven't been on the Betar Project. For me, having the self-belief in myself, knowing that I'm a really fucking great host, I know how to hold a conversation, I know how to dig deep and peel back the layers of the onion one layer at a time to get to the core of someone, to really unravel that value that they can provide to not only myself but the listener has been a journey in itself, and it's something that I'm always working on. But as I said, reflecting on how far I've come, like, holy shit, man, I am so good at what I do, and I'm so proud of how far I've come, but I know there's a lot more work to be had.
And that's such a good way to look at it, I feel the same way. My first time in this studio with Bomber, I was like, fuck, man, this is very cool. It's very cool, from where like a little shitty Hawkesbury radio studios with a one camera setup to this. And then even it was more so when I was editing the first episode, I was like, fuck, this is hectic.
The quality, everything is.
Yeah, it's just top notch. And now it's like, I know where I want to take it now. I know what I want to achieve. Like I have got these big dream goal interviews in my head.
What are they?
I don't know if I want to say.
You don't want to jinx it?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in jinx and like juju and all that.
Okay. But yeah, big goals.
I'll tell you one.
Yeah, okay.
I'll tell you one. One person who is like my fucking dream person to interview one day would be Donald Trump. I just think he's just one of the most interesting people.
He'll get deleted
on this planet. It probably will. It probably will. Until Elon Musk buys YouTube as well. But it wouldn't get deleted off Spotify, I don't think. I don't know. Probably not. Probably
Who
not.
knows? They can delete anything.
They're yeah, that's true. But that would be, that's a top one for me. There's a few others as well, like within Australia.
You need to have those big dreams, bro. If not, like, what are you chasing?
Exactly. And to me, it's like, it's very, I find a lot of motivation in the fact of like, I always remember things people say to me, right? Like I don't hold it against them. I'm not a grudge holder at all. I'm really not. I forgive and forget pretty quickly. Well, maybe not forget, but I forgive very quickly. But I remember little things that people have said. And that's what drives me, man. It's not about like proving people wrong. It's more so like about proving myself right. and believing in myself.
Hey, you can admit you can prove other people wrong.
I mean, it
them.
feels good.
It feels good.
It feels fucking good. You know, and you know, one thing that always plays on my mind, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea. I have a very, very good relationship with my family and my parents. But when I first started and I bought the camera and I, you know, spent all this money on, because, you know, I had a studio at Hawkesbury Radio, but it was just a roadcaster and the mics. Like that was it. So I bought a camera myself. I bought my studio lights myself, all that shit, you know. And I remember my mum being like, what the fuck is the point of podcasting? Like, no one's even going to listen.
My parents did the same thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're more like, I don't think it comes from like a bad place. I think it's more like it wasn't there when they were.
They don't understand.
Yeah.
They're from a different era.
It is. It's a total different generation, right? And I don't think they can really like, you know, understand that this is a career for people now. This is a fucking career. Like, you know, I will always be a photographer. That's, you know, if I can make money from that, you know, as long as it's creative, I don't give a fuck. All right. As long as it's something creative. Photography, I fucking love. I love it. I love creating art. But I think that goes really well, like hand in hand with podcasting, because, you know, photography is all about meeting people and having that connection as well. Same as podcasting. I think they relate really well to each other. So I'm glad I have that as like a money-making thing, right? Do I want to do this full-time? Fucking of course I do. I'd love to podcast full-time. That would be amazing. You know, do live shows and that's the dream.
That's my goal, bro.
And, you know, how good, how amazing, how alive would you feel, you know? Alpha Blokes just did a live podcast up there. My mate went up there and watched them. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's mad. Yeah. That's crazy.
I went to a live podcast the other month. Have you heard of the Resilience Project before?
No.
So they're a big mental health brand based out of Melbourne, but they did a tour up in Sydney. I think they did Queensland and stuff as well. But I went to their live show and I was like, fuck, this is mad. Like, it wasn't just a podcast like people speak. It was actually a show, and it was entertaining, but also had the core messages within that show. And I was like, I'm doing this. I don't know when, but I'm doing it. It just, shit like that inspires me to do more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I remember watching Bloke in a Bar do a live podcast outside there was one outside Origin one year, I think. There was one outside the grand final, just at like the locker room at Sydney Olympic Park outside of Call Stadium. Just watching him, I was like, fuck, this is so cool. Look how many people he's got. So many fucking people, you know, they're watching him just spit some shit.
Yeah.
And like, obviously he's got such a great brand now, you know, with his beer and his merch, and, you know, the amount of people I've seen those fucking bloke jerseys, my goodness, at MattyG Ground, fuck me. If I had $1 for every cunt I saw in one of them, fuck, I could fucking buy Suncorp Stadium, mate. I could buy the Tigers. They're going for pretty cheap at the moment.
Yeah.
But he's built such a great brand, and it's like, it's people like that that really inspire me. It's like, you know, I would love, you know what I imagine? This is what I envision, right? For Speak Free. It's like the biggest interviews, like the people that everyone wants a piece of, right? Think of like fucking Chappelle Corby, right? Like back in 2004 when she got caught, right?
Yeah.
The interview with her, like how much money would that be worth? Fucking heaps, right? Like everyone wanted that exclusive. And that's what I would love Speak Free to become, that like exclusive place where people come on, you know, and actually it's not like a 60 minutes exclusive where it's cut and edited to make someone look a certain way. It's 3 hours of, you know, that's what I'd eventually want, like a Rogan style, you know, just 3 hours unedited conversation.
Real and raw.
Real and raw with the people that everyone wants to hear from, you know. That's the dream.
You'll get there, bro.
That's the dream.
You have the dream, chase it.
Yeah. I need to get a lot of my own personal shit in order, and then
you'll get there.
We're
bro.
on.
You'll get there.
I know. You know what? I just want to touch on that again. It'll be the last I speak of it for this podcast, but I don't want anyone listening to think like, oh fuck, he's gone back. He's back to fucking party MattyG. That's not the case. I've had a few slip ups. I'm not gonna lie. am I in a mind frame now of like, fuck it? No way. No way am I in that mind frame. I'm really, really trying.
You have the awareness, and that's the first step, bro.
Yeah. And I'm really trying to stay on the straight and narrow and just get back to what I achieved. You know, I'm not super disappointed about the 114 days gone. Like, it's just a fucking number to me. I think I put too much pressure on that number at first. I don't think I'm going to do that now. Like, if I, you know, from now on, I think it added too much. You know, because when I reached 100, it was like, fuck, what's the next step? You know, like, that's how I felt. It was like playing a game and you reach level, you know, you're at to level 99 and then you're like level 100, game over. And you're like, oh, fuck, is there 101? Like, you know, and that's how I sort of felt. It was like, it felt like a game to me almost.
That's why before I asked, do you have like an internal why? Because that number is just external. As soon as you reach it, it's like, what now?
Well, exactly. And I think there's a lot of stuff that I'm still working through. And a lot of my self-reflection happened after I went sober. So I'm very happy with that. You know, like there's a lot of things that I've realized about myself that I'm now working on because of my sobriety, which is a huge positive. Because before it was like, it wasn't even registering before because I was just always, you know, that weekend to the next weekend, to the next weekend, to the next weekend, like on and on and on. And it was this cycle. When you break that, it gives you a lot more self-awareness than what I had. So yeah, I think that's a huge positive. And I think now because of that self-awareness, I've realized, okay, you're getting a bit carried away again here. You've had a few slip-ups. You've made a few fucking excuses for yourself. It's time to get back on. So, you know, I could have easily lied. I could have lied. But I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I was actually stressing about our first episode coming out because I knew I'd had slip-ups. And I think we definitely talked about me being, you know, fucking sober however many days.
Well, as I said, guess it all happened for a reason, eh?
Yeah, I think it did. And I think this gave me an opportunity now to, you know, be more open about where I'm at with that.
I appreciate you, bro. Like I said, this is the start of a conversation. You know the work that you need to do. You just got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be disappointing yourself. We all slip up. We're fucking human.
Yeah. And you know what? That's one thing. I've tried not to be hard on myself. Yeah. The most important thing for me is to be authentic, right? Like the good and the bad. And that's probably the only thing I was really like stressed about. Was like coming across as like, hey, he's talking about sobriety. I've seen him out. I saw him out last weekend with a CC in his hand. Yeah. The fucking dog. But yeah, this is good.
We've cleared the air now. Everything's out there.
I know. It's all out there. It's
how you feel?
I don't know. It hasn't come out yet to the public, so I don't know how to feel. But no, I think like anyone who knows me who knows me well would know I've had a few slip-ups and that's all right, you know. The most important thing is to recognize that and get back on to, you know, whatever this journey
move forward,
is.
Bro. Just take action and move forward.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it's hard because it's like I'm in that phase now of, do I actually want to be completely sober? I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that question. I know I don't want to go back to how it was. That's one big thing. But full on sobriety, I don't know.
I think it's about building a healthy relationship with alcohol.
Exactly. Like alcohol's not so much of a problem.
Yeah, well, with whatever you're
It was in
doing.
Brisbane. Fuck me, mate. That liver was screaming for a break. Or your kidneys. What is it? What do you fuck up? Liver?
Everything.
Everything you fuck up, yeah. But it's the drugs, and that's what I'm probably most disappointed in myself is that I allowed myself to dabble in the substance that was causing me the most distress, you know, and the most highly addictive fucking substance, which is dexamphetamine.
Yeah. But I feel because you, in a way, kind of rebounded, it's allowed you to, yes, have this awareness. And I think it's brought a lot more stuff up now and made you realize, fuck, maybe I actually got to work on a few more things. Because if you worked on all that stuff, you'll probably find that you won't even think about drugs and alcohol anyway, because you've done all the internal work.
Exactly.
So you don't need to mask anything anymore. And if you want to have a drink to socialize, you can without going on a massive binge.
Exactly. And, you know, and actually it's funny you say that, because I think the biggest thing that the 114-day journey of sobriety, let's call it that, what it did show me is that drugs was the, you know, partying and that sort of lifestyle. That was a symptom of the actual problem, you know, of the actual problems. It's not one singular problem. Everyone has shit, right? A lot of people go through life fucking not looking at anything about themselves and not being self-aware at all. A lot of people die that way, right? I think what it's taught me is that or what it showed me was, okay, you've cut that out of your life, right? You've cut, you're being good. You're being healthy. You're not doing drugs. You're not fucking drinking. You're not going out. But there's still those issues there. And that's allowed me to actually find out what that is, you know, through self-reflection and through the feeling of like, I still don't feel great, you know. I've cut that out. I feel better, but I still don't feel great. And I think that's, I think both like a catalyst for maybe doing it again or, you know, dabbling in it again. But I think it's also positive because it's shown me now that just cutting off drugs is not going to fix the real shit, you know. It'll help fix it, but it's not going to fix it just on its own, just cutting that out, you know. So
there's a lesson and blessing to come out of everything.
Yeah, there is. We'll leave my shit at that because it's not I'm not the guest.
Is this the Betar Project now?
Yeah, I know. I feel like we should swap chairs. But I do have a couple of questions. What do you think podcasting has taught you the most?
Consistency is a big thing, especially podcasting. You got to be on your game every week if you want to grow a show. So putting in the work. A lot of people come into this game, especially if they're like influencers and have a big following, and they think, oh, I can just do a podcast. It's going to be easy as everyone's going to come and listen. And they realize it's more than just having these conversations. There's so much more behind the scenes. And yeah, you can delegate it like the studio and all that stuff. But there's still a lot that goes into it. Once you realize that, all the people that are not serious about it go away, and which is why I've stayed in this for so long now, because I've just been committed to not only having these amazing conversations, but doing all the background stuff, the editing. Now I've got an editor, thank God, but I still got to do some parts of editing, the planning, the studio, everything like that. All the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see. It's like a full-time job in itself. And you don't get paid for it in the beginning. It could take years. For me, I'm 4 years in and I'm only just starting to make a bit of coin from it. It may take another 4 years for me to actually be where I want to be at. But you got to play the long game. So many people are looking for that overnight success, that instant gratification, because that's the society we live in right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It does not work. If you want a business, a podcast, anything, it's going to take time. So I think that's a big lesson. I think another one is the importance of communication and conversation, and also like connection. My background of not really being a great conversationalist to now that's like one of my greatest assets that I'm still working on. But being able to hold a conversation, for me to even sit here now, and it's not my podcast, but I'm in that podcast mind of fuck, let's dig into MattyG, let's ask some questions here. That's just in me because I've developed that over time. And I think that's what makes a great conversation.
100%. And you know what? I appreciate that because I've had a lot of guests on and it's nothing against them. It's, because they're not a podcast, they're not an interview with themselves, right? That will sit there and answer questions, and that's it. I'm not going to name who the fuck they are.
It's a conversation.
Everyone's been, yeah, exactly. It's a conversation, right? It's open dialogue. It's a discussion. And I feel like there's a lot of times where I've had to talk about myself rather than be asked about myself to say something. And I'll say it in a way to relate, but it leaves me feeling like, oh, fuck, I fucking brought up myself again. Fucking,
yeah.
And it makes me feel like a bit, but to have someone like you in who's, willing to throw it back, it's good. It keeps it rolling, So, I don't know if I made that point.
You made the point, bro. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
feel like I talk shit about people who feed on my podcast. I didn't mean anything negative.
Hey, I could bring up some stuff too, don't worry.
Yeah.
I've been in podcasts where I'm like, I cannot wait for this to end.
Oh, really?
Like,
I've had a couple like that.
especially during the COVID time when it was over like Zoom and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Fuck that.
Never doing it again. Never. I'm
Yeah.
like, you got to come to me, or when I do podcast tours and stuff, then we'll do it.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, in August, I'm going to Europe. So I'm going to Ireland. I've already linked up with like 4 or 5 people, hired a studio, everything like that. So I'm doing podcasts over there. Instead of doing Zoom, fuck that. Never.
That's fucking awesome.
So, yeah, a big goal of mine was, okay, I love travel. I love podcast connecting. How can I combine the two? So for me, it's have my studio, my home base, but I want to travel around the world, have tours, do live shows,
Yeah.
but also be able to come back to my hub.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That would, what a dream. What a fucking dream that would be. Oh, man. Just to jump on a plane, go on a fucking podcast tour. I'd love that. I'd fucking love that, eh?
See, I'm actually going for the OzTag World Cup, but I'm like doubling up as a podcast
It's a
tour.
World Cup for OzTag?
Yeah. Didn't know that until I signed up for it.
Fuck me. I thought that was only an Aussie thing.
Yeah, I thought so too, but it's big in Europe.
Really?
So it's being held in Ireland. So I'm going over
Is
there.
that because they're all fucking bitches who can't play tackle?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Just shit on the whole of Europe
Yeah.
on this podcast.
So going over there for that, and then doing a podcast tour, coming back, and then in November I'm meant to be doing another OzTag competition in New Zealand. So going there and going to do another podcast tour there too.
Yeah.
So two international tours plus everything else.
Are you doing all the podcasting stuff just by yourself when you go over? Or are you taking, like, is someone coming to help you with it? Or?
I'm hiring a studio, so I shouldn't need to bring much. But I
Yeah.
might bring a little travel kit just in case.
Yeah.
Because I've traveled to do podcasts before and had like 2 fucking suitcases of shit. I'm like, I don't want to travel all that
Yeah,
again.
fuck that, eh? Mate, I hate just cutting around one suitcase full of clothes. Mostly because I always overpack.
Imagine all equipment and cameras. And
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah. No, that's a good idea, man. And that's what's cool about everyone podcasting now is that the studio is fucking everywhere. Everywhere. Like, if you went back 5 years,
it'd be so hard.
it'd be so fucking hard.
I don't even think there would be podcast studios for hire.
Yeah. It might be like a radio studio,
Yeah.
like a community radio. And you'd have to set up your own, like, cameras around a fucking, the little fucking switchboard thing.
Now they're everywhere. Like, so for example, we've got this one, freaking 500 meters up the road, you got my one. Like, they're everywhere.
Yeah. It's crazy. So good. This is beautiful, but
It is. It's a nice studio. I love it.
I love this studio. I want to, we'll kind of wrap it up. Paul Bomber's in the fucking switch room right now.
Poor
Just
bloke.
probably
Love you, Bomber.
Yeah. Thanks for staying, bro. But I know he's probably fucking pretty hungry and wants to go eat. But I like to end my podcast with a piece of advice that you could give my listeners, and it could be about anything. It can be to do with mental health or with podcasting or finding your niche or whatever it may be. Whatever you want to say, take it away.
Shit. There's so many directions I could go with this.
Go as long as you want to.
I think a big thing that I've been focusing on lately is taking personal responsibility for your own life, especially in the mental health space. There's a lot of mental health pity parties out there where a lot of people cluster together and they talk about their feelings and they trauma bond, and it's like, how are you ever going to get out of that and create the life that you desire if you're stuck in that rut and you're surrounded by people that are going to keep you in that rut too? you have to take personal responsibility. You have to go out there, and I speak a lot about mental fitness. You've got to build your mental fitness. Now, a great way for you to do that, and the way that I like to explain it. So mental fitness for me is mind, body, and spirit. It's the connection of that. So get a piece of paper, put a column, mind, body, spirit. What tasks can you do each day that fit into those columns? So mind, what will they be? Write a book, read a book. Physical, go to the gym. Spirit, do some meditation. All right, they're 3 things. That's what, maybe an hour out of your day, 45 minutes, depending on how long you go to the gym for. Everyone has time for that. And if you don't, you need to reevaluate your day and what you're prioritizing. Because by you just doing those 3 things, imagine if you did that for 7 days, how much better would you be? So like for you, like you should make your own mental fitness routine, do those 3 things. And then once you get to 7 or 14 days, you're like, okay, cool, this is starting to become a habit. I want to add something else in. Or if something's not working, take it out and replace it. But by building your mental fitness, by getting 1% better each day, you're able to turn up as your best version of yourself. And now for myself being a parent, my obligation as a parent is to be the fucking best parent that I can be. My child doesn't owe me anything. I owe them fucking everything. I brought them into this world. This is my choice. I got to lay the platform for them so then they can develop and become the strong individual that they need to be to achieve what they need to achieve. And that's why you see on my Instagram, I'm at the athletics field just up the top there, and I'm running with my daughter in the pram. She may not understand what's happening, but she's like, I'm out with my dad. But later on, she's like, fuck, my dad's running. Like, he's not using me as an excuse not to get shit done. Because so many parents will use their children as an excuse of, oh, I couldn't start my business. I couldn't eat healthy. I couldn't do whatever. I couldn't travel because I have kids. That's a bullshit cop-out for you not achieving the things that you wanted to achieve because you were scared or whatever else was going on. And then further down the line, you end up just resenting your kids because you're like, oh, it's your fault. No, motherfucker, it's your fault. You need to take personal responsibility for your own life and make the decisions that you need to make to achieve what you want to achieve. So that's a big thing that I'm working on at the moment, because who am I to sit here and speak about it if I'm not embodying it, if I'm not living it myself? And it's a battle. It's fucking hard to get out of bed early and go to the gym and do the things. And
especially in winter. Fuck, it's been cold, mate.
I'll be honest, the last couple of weeks I've slept in. I've been a bitch. And I tell myself, you're being a bitch, Nick. Like, my routine is get up at 5 or 4:50, go to the gym, come home, cold shower. In the winter, it's fucked.
Oh, yep. Fuck that.
Cold shower, 10 minutes of meditation, and then by then my daughter's up, so I get up, play with her, and then get ready and go to work.
Holy fuck. Hold up. Cold fucking shower. Like the whole shower, cold?
Yeah.
The whole shower. So not like the last like minute and a half, do like hot, cold, like a cold shower. Like you wash yourself. Cold fucking water.
About a minute to 2 minutes.
I mean, fucking good on you. But fuck, I could not do it in winter, eh?
It's hard, bro. It's hard.
I like feel the cold so much. Like, oh man, waking up lately, I've been like, fuck this right off. I fucking hate winter. I love like getting burnt out of bed, you know? Like I love that feeling.
That's why you got to do cold showers, bro. Learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That's true.
I bitch it all the time, trust me. But you get used to it. Like I can go outside and I'm like, I hate the cold, I'll rug up. But I can do a cold shower, I can do ice bath for like 5 minutes easy. It's just, yeah, you just got to say fuck you to that inner bitch, bro. Just get it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, Rogan. Yeah, that's true. Maybe I'll try it. You know what? I might just try like fucking 30 seconds, see how it goes.
Even just do your hot shower and then at the end, do 30 seconds.
Well, that's really good for inflammation. I was doing that in summer and it really helped me because I've got like bad joints.
Hot cold therapy, like, so I do sauna and then ice bath.
Yeah.
It's so good, bro.
Yeah. That's fucking mad. It's really good for you, eh? It's like good for blood flow and shit too.
Even I was listening to a podcast, even if you don't want to have a cold shower, you can get an ice pack and put it on the back of your neck. So there's like a sensory point or a nerve or something there, which once it has cold exposure to it, it sends a signal to the brain and like it relaxes you and releases different chemicals and stuff like that in the brain to reduce anxiety and stress and all that stuff. So there's so much benefits too cold exposure. And I definitely recommend yourself and everyone listening, go and do it. Even if it is 30 seconds, do an ice pack on the back of your neck, like whatever you choose to start with, just start, because your body will naturally adapt. For me, I hated cold showers in the beginning, but the more that you do it, the more easier it gets. Like middle of winter, cold shower, it's a bitch. I hate it. I have a boxing match with myself or with the shower before I jump in. I'm like, fuck you, I'm going to smash you. And then I jump in there, but I get it done. And as soon as I step out, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I did that, because I feel so good and I can start my day in such a positive way.
It's that mental fitness too, eh?
Mm-hmm. It all comes in, bro. The mind, body, spirit.
Yeah. We'll leave on. I do just want to ask you, and obviously you can tell the listeners where they can find your podcast and whatnot. But what's the dream? Where do you want to take the Betar Project?
Been thinking about this lately, and I would love to have a facility, like a mental fitness facility. So have all the recovery stuff, a gym, podcast studios, like a big content hub, areas to do like workshops and live podcasts. So that's like the mental fitness hub that I want to create one day. Then also podcast tours, so go around the world, internationally around Australia, live shows, all that kind of stuff, and then be able to use all that money to then provide more value and give back. Because I think money is such a taboo thing. Like, oh, I'm not in it for the money. I don't want to make money. Fuck, I'm not in it for the money, but fuck, I love money, because the more money I make, the more that I can give back. Even with my studio, I can upgrade all my equipment, so it means a higher value, which means guests are going to see me as a higher value and want to come in, which then creates more for the listener. So like all in all, I love money. I wanted to come, and where I kind of got that mindset from was I remember seeing this clip of Steve Irwin. He was one of my idols.
I know exactly what clip you're talking about.
He's one of my idols growing up. I remember crying in school when he died.
So did I.
Yeah. I wanted to be him. I wanted to have my own zoo and everything growing up.
I used to do snake shows with rubber snakes at home.
I used to have pet snakes.
Actually. Oh, really?
Lizards, turtles,
See, that was my dream, but my dad's a bitch.
Yeah, I had all that. But the clip is like, he goes, I love money. I want to take all your money, because that means I can buy all this land to do animal conservation. I was like, fuck, that's a great mindset to have towards money. Like, it's not evil. It's how you use it. It's just a tool. It's just a vehicle at the end of the day.
Exactly.
If you go out there and just spend it all on yourself, like, yeah, you're allowed to treat yourself. If you want to buy a Lambo, go. I don't see the reason for doing that, but hey, each to their own. It's not about how much money you make. It's how much money you can give with still having the lifestyle and the life that you desire.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming in and speaking free for the second time.
Yeah. Hopefully this turned out good.
Yeah. So the fucking audio has
it's Bomber's fault.
But I appreciate it. To anyone, wondering what the first episode was, it was basically this. But I reckon this is a better version.
10 times better.
This is a 10 times. Yeah. Also, I usually film 2 episodes at once, just to let all the listeners know that, a little trade secret. And usually by the second episode, I'm like, fuck, I'm tired.
Yeah.
So I feel like I had that with you, and I don't have that this time. So it's good. It's a good thing. I think it happened for a reason. And yeah, I'm keen for it to go.
It was a great conversation. Thank you for having me, bro.
And remember, guys, speak free with MattyG.